Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Can you all hear me well? Great. My name is Han. Everybody, good afternoon and welcome to VUS TESOL Webinar 2 2021. And I'll be accompanying you together with the presenter today in our webinar session. Before we start, yes, I can see a lot of you have already typed yes and okay in the chat box. Thank you very much. So as some of you may know, the annual VUS TESOL is an expected event that attracts hundreds of teachers from inside and outside Vietnam to come and share their teaching methods. But due to COVID-19, it's been very unlikely for us to organize the event offline as annually. But also thanks to COVID, I hope that this free webinar series has been held to cater an even larger number of teachers and created more convenience in terms of location and commuting, especially for faraway teachers and teachers from other countries. We hope that with the participation of ELT experts and invited speakers from well-known publishing houses such as Cambridge Assessment English, Cambridge University Press, eFuture, Macmillan Education, Publications, National Geographic Learning, Oxford University Press, StudyCat, and the VUS, the webinars will provide you with the most updated ELT trained and practical teaching methods and techniques so that you can teach your class more effectively. But before we start, can I just take one short minute from you to gladly announce the winners of the previous webinar from last Thursday. So these 5 winners were randomly selected from those who completed the feedback after the webinar. Let me now share the name of the winners. Here we go. All right, can you see my share screen, everyone? So as you can see, this is the list of the 5 lucky winners who won 5 professional development online courses from Cambridge University Press. Congratulations to you all. VUS or our sponsor will contact you for the prize receipts, okay? We'll leave the list there a while so that you can have a look at. All right, now let's get back to our main content today. I won't keep you to wait for any longer. Let me join to welcome Mr. Gregg. I'm sorry, Gregg, I forgot how to say your name correctly again. Gregg Sotiropoulos from Publications. Ah, thank God.
Excellent.
So, thank you. He's going to deliver his speech on social and emotional intelligence, essential now more than ever. Okay, so please be informed, guys, that we will have the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Also, during that time, I'll send you the links to complete a survey about this webinar and to download your certificate of participation. Now, let's start our webinar today. Over to you, Gregg.
Thank you very, very much, everyone. Give me just a moment to share my screen, and we will be on our way. All righty, so as always, it is an absolute pleasure to be in the company of educationalists. And before I begin, I would like to do a little thumbs up, just a little test. Can you see my screen with the title of the presentation? Can you hear me clearly? And can you see me clearly? Just a couple of thumbs up. Yes, yes, yes. A lot of yeses. Excellent. Fabulous. Now, for this particular webinar, ladies and gentlemen, I implore you to please have your chat box open because it is going to be interactive at times. Okay, so social and emotional intelligence, something that needs to be addressed in our schools, in our curriculums, in our syllabus for the coming academic year. As Eric Jensen says, We are social beings and our brains grow in a social environment. What has happened this past year and a half because of the pandemic and coronavirus, it has thrown the educational system and with our students in a place that we were not used to. We were thrown out of our comfort zone. And unfortunately, the environment of school has been seen as such an important place for our students, because that is where the real, let's say, heart of education occurs. Online teaching and online learning works, yes, I do not disagree with that, but nothing takes place from face-to-face education. So what do we have to do, guys? We have to upgrade our mindset. We have to think of these amazing webinars from VUS as an investment, okay? And in looking at social and emotional intelligence, what I want us to do is to create and cultivate a supportive environment in school. For who? For our future global agents of change, your students. This is a title that I call students around the world, and I really want us to think about that and to have our students really understand that they are, in fact, future global agents of change. Now, when I talk about a supportive environment, right? How can we do this? How is it possible to create a supportive environment in the school environment, okay? We have to look at and touch upon a few things that we're going to talk to our students about. And that is, number one, self-awareness. Number two, looking at social consciousness, thinking about reflecting on the importance of relationships in the classroom, teacher to student, student to teacher, student to student. And finally, looking at responsible decision making. Okay, so this is just an outline of what we are going to touch upon today. The heart of this webinar is going to be number one, self-awareness. As Peter Salovey and John Mayer defines emotional intelligence, you know, it's the ability of a person, okay, to monitor not only our own, but other people's emotions, feelings, and then to discriminate between them, right? Appropriately, though, and to use this information, this emotional information in the classroom, in the hallway, in the cafeteria, anywhere in the school, to think about the behavior of a student and to use that information to teach more effectively and ultimately for your students to learn more effectively. If you're late, don't worry, it's quite all right. You haven't missed anything, okay? Just like students coming into the classroom. People are typing in the chat box, I'm sorry that I'm late, right? It's okay, no worries. Thank you for being here. So in talking about social and emotional wellness, social and emotional intelligence, what's an emotion? This is the first thing we have to talk about with our students and to explain it to them, because how many of you, now I want to see the chat box on fire, how many of you have been on an emotional roller coaster this past year? How many of you have been on an emotional roller coaster this entire year, right? Everybody, me, very often. Hands up, yes, right? And this is why it's so important, because we are adults and being on this roller coaster, we can kind of, you know, gauge how to control it. But what about our students, guys? Right? It's pretty tough, right? Since last year. Think of our students. How has it been for our students this past year? This roller coaster was crazy for our students. out of their comfort zone, out of their routines, out of their habits, living in an environment that had unstable social and emotional wellness with those that they lived with, right? Grandparents, parents, brothers, sisters, dogs, you name it. So when we put things into perspective, it's been very, very hard on all of us. So these emotions, right? These feelings caused by a situation, a circumstance, that we are in, or the people that we are with. So this is what we should talk about with our students ASAP. All right. Now, they derive from these circumstances, moods, relationships with others, right? As you just wrote, it is a feeling that students have when they learn a language. Maybe they feel bored, excited, interested. Absolutely. But we're going to dig deeper, that it's not just about the content, it's about the experiences that they have been having, right? But here's a problem now. I started this off by saying a feeling. Feeling. So wait a minute. We gotta think about this for a minute, right? While emotions and feelings are quite different, guys, quite different. We use these words interchangeably, don't we? More or less, we do this when we're explaining the same thing, and we really shouldn't. How something or someone makes us feel. So how can we make this easy for our students? How can we make this interesting for our students? Let's explain how they're different. Let's plant the seed now. So let's become science teachers for a moment, can we? Okay. With a little help from our little science teacher here. We're going to look at the brain, right? And now there are a lot of big words here that students are going to say, oh, I can't say it. I can't pronounce it. I don't understand it. No worries. It's quite easy. They're easier than my last name, Sotiropoulos. Okay. So emotions, where do they occur? In the limbic system, deep inside our brains. And it's one of the first areas of the human brain to develop. Interesting facts for our students to learn. The key area is the amygdala, that little P-shaped right there in the center. Then we have the hypothalamus, the thalamus, and the hippocampus. So students are going to start getting curious. They're going to start asking questions. Their antennas are going to come up. And so these emotions that are in our brains create these reactions, right? And these reactions are both verbal and non-verbal. And they can happen just like that, in a heartbeat. Okay. So emotions start there. Then let's distinguish feelings. Feelings is the conscious experience of emotional reactions. These feelings originate on the outside part of the brain, the neocortical region of the brain, as you see here with this visual prompt. Sparked by emotions and shaped by personal experiences, beliefs, memories, and thoughts, this is where feelings spark. It perceives an emotion and then assigns a meaning to this emotion. Now, after we get over this science lesson with students, with biology, right? We are sometimes not even clear as to what emotions we are feeling. And this is where let's say, the bridge gets broken in our interactions with our students, that we sometimes don't understand the why a student is behaving. We don't understand what is going on with our students. Sometimes we don't even understand ourselves, right? Within ourselves. So what's happening? There is this battle between what we're thinking and what we're feeling, this emotion with feelings. And so, my dear teachers joining us today, when behaviors are in the class, when students seem to be bored, not interested, there is a why. All right. And the question is, what are we going to do to not have these broken bridges? Okay. Feeling is what we perceive the emotion. Yes. Emotions are extremely important in education. Absolutely. Right. And that's why we're here today, to look at this further. Eric Jensen says, there is absolutely no separation. Tell me if you agree with this, teachers. There is no separation of mind and emotion. Emotions, thinking, and learning are linked. And this is the quote that I want us to have resonate in our classrooms. Just like, when students come into our class and we say, oh, we have the lesson plan, right? We have to complete the activities. But if your students are not in an emotional state to learn because something has happened, something has transpired during the break at lunch, you must, approach this first, attend to this experience first in order to proceed in your lesson plan. And you can even use it as a teachable moment. So here we go. This is the game of games for social emotional wellness. I want to see that chat box on fire. I'm going to show you some sentences, some phrases. I want you to write in the chat box, true or false, T or F. Okay, so here we go. Here's the first one. Ready? All emotions matter in education. True or false? Oh my goodness. I see very few false. I see a whole lot of true. All right, you are entitled to your opinion. Let's continue. Now look at the key words. Too many students are suppressing their emotions in school. True or false? True or false? You guys are too slow. Too many. There's so many people with us today. All right, here we go. Now I'm giving you a time limit. You have 5 seconds to answer the next one. There is a rise in anxiety, stress, frustration, and depression with our students. True or false? 5, 4, 3. Oh, I love it. 2, 1. Bravo. Good job. Excellent. Excellent. Turbo. A full range of emotions are what make us human. A full range of emotions. You guys are absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Here we go. Here we go. Ready? These emotions we have are ultimately what gets us through life. True or false? True or false? And finally, you guys are superb. Last one. Emotions help us in communication. Now, I'm over the moon with how fast you are answering these statements. Now, believe it or not, I have researched these, right? And it seems that the overall answer for these is true. Not saying that those of you who wrote in false are wrong, but I want to explain very quickly. in communicating, if students understand that they can speak about their emotions and their feelings, it helps in students to communicate with us, to voice an opinion, to do a presentation, whatever it may be, to negotiate. What gets us through life are, in fact, these wonderful emotions that we have based on experiences. Is there a rise in anxiety, stress, and frustration, depression? Yes, absolutely. Are students suppressing? Not all, too many are suppressing their emotions. Do all emotions matter in education? Absolutely. We must embrace those, whether a student is angry, sad, fearful, lonely, etc. So, self-awareness, here we go. We just did the whole warm-up for our students. Now, this game is a great game to do with students. You can change the vocabulary a little bit so that if it's appropriate for the level. Okay. Somebody just asked, how did I come about with this game? I read quite a few different articles and from around the world regarding what has happened this past year and a half with students, both those in school and those at home. And so, and in general with social emotional intelligence, these true false statements can be seen on the internet, okay, whether or not they are in fact true. Self-awareness. Now, we are empowered to make changes and to build on our strengths, but also not to forget to identify where we can improve our weaknesses, right? In self-awareness, we have some guiding principles that I'd like to share with you. When you're teaching a student, you need to be self-aware of what you're doing, how you're doing it with your students, and also with your audience. So the first is, what is your goal? What is your intention for this lesson? What is your intention for the week, for the month that you're going to be teaching? These goals and these intentions with your students, they fluctuate, right? I mean, sometimes it could be an attainable goal, and other times you see that you're veering off because your students are showing you that they don't want to go in this direction. And so you follow the need of the student, right? And allow them to dictate sometimes where those goals and intentions go. Yes, objectives, okay, if you will, you can use objectives also. And so as you're trying to reach your goals on a daily basis, you must be aware of the reactions of your students. You see, sometimes we teach an activity and we think it's going well. It's splendidly well, right? But in fact, your students are showing you from their nonverbal body language that it's not. And so you're aware of this, their reactions, and thus you have to make adjustments immediately because they're not learning. Okay. That responsiveness that you have at that moment's notice is the key element to time management in teaching your class. Some teachers are not responsive quick enough with their students. And so what happens here is, you know, time is of the essence when we're teaching, we're wasting valuable time. Also, when your students are showing you some emotion that is disrupting the rest of the class, that's another, let's say, situation where your responsiveness has to come into play immediately. What to do, what to say, how to say it, right? In doing that, we understand that there needs to be respect, are respectfulness within the class. And this is a key guiding principle that I've implemented since 23 years ago when I was teaching primary school in New York City. Right? I taught primary school in New York for a couple of years, and that's where I saw that respectfulness is so important. Now, can I ask you all a question? Who should a student respect first? Who should a student respect first? Can I see some of your answers in the chat box, please? This is very, very important. Kim, wonderful. Rebeth, excellent. Excellent. Now it's going so fast, I cannot read your names, but I absolutely love that you are writing this. Very good. Alex, yes. 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 Okay. I can understand that answer. I'm a parent myself. 90% of you have written themselves. And that is ding, 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 ding. Exactly right. That a student must learn to respect themselves first in order to respect those around them. And so this is a very important self-awareness principle to teach your students. Self-awareness in your body language. Be very careful with that, because you could be adding fuel to the fire in class if students are not well. Students are also trying to show you, to speak to you, to communicate with you through their body language regarding their social and emotional wellness. We need to be aware of that in class. They are not troublemakers, my friends. They are not behavioral troublemakers, teachers. There is something else going on behind that, that we must find out in order to be fair to meet the needs of all of our students. Okay, because you cannot pour out something from an empty cup. I love that. Excellent. Your tone of voice, self-awareness of tone of voice. Okay, you may use that voice like a whip. So be very careful with that. And listening, not the passive listening, the active listening to what they are saying and what they are asking for. Okay. Now, the last principle is the trunk. It is behavior. All of this that you see falls upon behavior. Our behavior towards our students, their behavior towards us and towards each other. So if we strengthen the respect aspect in a classroom, just imagine how that could positively influence the behavior in a class. And believe me, students with that roller coaster that they have just ridden on this entire year are going to have quite a bit of this as an issue. So that means we have to share with them our emotional thermometer and implement this in our classroom. When I was teaching, all I had to do is say, students, my little future global agents, please check your emotional thermometers, please. Let's check them. Let's see. How are we? Check to see. Are you hot or not? How hot are you? Because if you're really hot, then that means that you are probably doing something that you shouldn't. Now, I base this on primary. You can use this also for older students. And what emotion is expressed in a number 5? It could be a few, but what emotion do you think can be expressed? Well, the key emotion on a number 5 is that they're mad, angry, furious. And yet we label them as a troublemaker. We label them as a student who has some issues. We all have issues, guys. The problem is that we do not talk about them. We do not communicate about how we are feeling. And so we have our students check their emotional thermometer and we say, okay, bring it down a little. Let's go. Whining, demanding, they can't wait. They didn't get their way, right? They wanted to know what was going to be on a test, and we added a couple of extra questions that they didn't know about. So what happens? They're upset. Still high on the emotional thermometer. Let's bring it down a little bit. They're hungry. They're tired. They can't go to the bathroom. Things aren't going their way. Something's broken, lost, doesn't work. Now, one teacher about 4 months ago wrote to me in the chat box and said, can't go to the bathroom. What does that have to do with teaching and learning? Well, let me share this with you. How many times have you taught your students? And one of the students says, Miss, sir, teacher, may I go to the bathroom? And what's the first answer we give them? 90% of the time. What's the first thing we say? Miss, can I go to the bathroom? Love it. You too? Do you really? Oh, seriously? I love it. The first 15 answers is yes. Someone's being more honest. Wait for the break. Anxious. Sure. Yes. Sure. Yes. You have 2 minutes. Okay, that's fair. They're kids, right? Yes, yes, yes. Now, so let me ask you this. You're in the middle of your lesson and you're in your rhythm. And all of a sudden, Miss, can I go to the bathroom? Is it really urgent? Nice question. Wait after this. Yes. Now, for a student, not being able to go to the bathroom could be an issue. They can get frustrated. They can get disappointed. Believe me, after you tell them to wait, after you tell them they can't go, for the next 5 minutes, they are not listening to you. They are thinking of going to the bathroom because you said no. So maybe a simple yes. Oh, wait, let me read. Wait. Sometimes students, yes. Sometimes students make an excuse to go out. So we must consider their behavior. Spot on. Yes. So what we're doing here is we are finding out if in fact their behavior, their question to go to the bathroom is legit, right? Because we have some of those students that just want to waste time and go to the bathroom. But that's where you start to weed them out. And that's where you start to respect them and say, if you truly need to go to the bathroom, okay, you have 2 minutes, right? Okay, so we're bringing it down, guys. This is where we want, right here, to the 2 and the 1. I'm not sure. I don't know. Uncertainty. Kids don't like that in English because they have been programmed to fear uncertainty, which you will see later on in the emotion of fear. They have been programmed not to make mistakes, not to fail. No, no, no. That's not right. And so this is something that affects them. So they get scared, they get nervous, they get anxious. Now, for me personally, dear teachers, being a little scared, a little nervous, a little anxious is a good thing. These are emotions that we shouldn't push away. These are the emotions that make us stronger, that make us who we are. And I want students to be okay in a number 2 temperature of the emotional thermometer. And of course, ultimately, everything's okay, smile, giving hugs, feeling happy, and feeling good. So please, use this emotional thermometer with your students. Help them to understand, to catch themselves in a moment's notice. Because when we have a class of students like this, some of them are ready to learn. Others are showing you they're not. Our goal as we teach is to create as many number 2s and 1s as possible in the class, giving them the support, the understanding that the number 2 is okay. Now, how can we do this? How can we do this with our students? Let's help them to think about emotions. And what better way than connecting with a movie, connecting with an experience, Inside Out, the movie that required emotions to be spoken about. Now, if you haven't seen the movie, please do, Inside Out. See some parts of the movie with your students. In a little bit, I'm going to show you a little clip of the movie for an activity we do with our students. Your favorite, mine too, Crystal. But there is a character here, the little green emotion of disgust. And I don't want to label her as disgust for our students. We're going to take disgust away and we're going to put in loneliness. Why? Because this was something that students have been facing for 1.5 years because of this pandemic. Because as we said at the beginning, social by nature, in a social environment that they were not in, therefore loneliness has increased exponentially. So happiness, joy, right? Our first core emotion on our amygdala, smiling, looking around, being amazed, this sense of safety and security that our, wait a minute, hold on, that our parents give us? Well, let me tell you something, teachers. Let's take that word out. Let's substitute teachers for parents. This is what you guys do for your students. You supply them in your school environment with a sense of safety and security. So, being proactive, going back to face-to-face education, we must have this happiness, this sense of safety and security in the school. Corona, okay, done with it. Fear, yes, it was all over the world. Now, this is what we want to pump into our students' everyday lives. Sprouts from the knowledge that we are loved and taken care of. Loved and taken care of. Your students feel like this with you, and they love this feeling. Joy, pleasure, satisfaction all exist to remind us of what it is that we value most. So, chat box time. Ready? Think about the times when you feel happiest. We haven't had this opportunity this past year because we've been bombarded with all this other stuff. You will come to realize what it is. Someone wrote, payday. Yes, that's always a good day. You will come to realize what it is that makes you smile most. So, my dear teachers, what is it that makes you smile most? This is a question I want you to ask your students. Okay. Weekdays after a class runs very satisfactorily, getting good marks, traveling, good food, being both parents, taking good care of, getting my salary, good books, spending time with my big family, traveling, love, can't read it. Oh, teachers becoming students, LOL, drinking. The chat box is on fire. I can't read them. After class and having time to eat good food, goals achieved, cafe, peaceful life. Okay, excellent. Good. So do this with your students. Ask these questions because having them reflect on happiness allows them to lower their emotional thermometer. Sadness. the simplest ways to stay happy is to let go of what makes us sad. But experiencing the loss of something can strengthen us, and you will see later on how. Do not push sadness to the side. Feeling sad allows us to reflect on our situation and to better assess what's going on and what caused us that sadness. And empathy is the secret around sadness. Believe it or not, you will see it in a video. Teaches us to be more introspective, to learn from our mistakes. Anger. Oh man, this was a bad one. Parents getting angry at their students for not doing well on a test or an exam, which is okay. It's not the end of the world. But our parents are angry about other things. Teachers are sometimes angry about other things, and yet we lash out to our students, to our children. Try not to do that. I did. I admit it. During this pandemic, I lashed out because of other things onto my kids. And I apologized and asked for forgiveness. Anger is meant to do more. Okay. Someone writes, anger makes us to try harder. Yes, so does sadness. But what happens is sadness can help in situations, whereas anger with others does not help in situations. All right, going out and taking a deep breath, somebody writes. Yes. And so we need to express to students this idea that, okay, you didn't do well on a test. Don't worry, better your best. Okay, fail again, fail better. And that means that you are improving. Okay. Fear. Which one do you choose? Forget everything or face everything? You see, this was the key emotion this past year and a half. It is a fight or flight response. Feeling threatened physically. Now, we have the emotional threat, which we should not have with our students and in school. Sometimes we feel fear towards things that we are not supposed to. Failure, uncertainty, emotional vulnerability, loss of control. It is okay. Somebody writes, it depends on each person. Some people run away, but some face it. Yes, it depends on the person. It depends on the situation. But overall, when you fear something, it means that you should address it rather than let it go, right? Because that builds your character, your personality. It strengthens you, right? So failure, uncertainty, emotional vulnerability, and loss of control. Fear keeps us from taking risks, challenging ourselves, going after what we want. Somebody writes, ignore until it goes away. The most common reaction, yes. And this is wrong. We don't want our future global agents of change to do this. We want them to embrace risks, calculated risks, to challenge themselves, not to be threatened by things, to take the threat and say, this is a challenge, and to really go after what they want. Now, loneliness. Just look at this face. Isolation, disconnection. Does this ring a bell? One of the most basic human needs, Maslow's basic human needs, the pyramid, the need for belongingness. It starts from birth, where we want our mommies and daddies. We want the love. We want this, right? So looking at Maslow, we have this deep-seated need for social interaction. It has been taken away from us. Nurture it. Have it flourish in school, guys. Okay. Yes, somebody writes, need love. Shower your students with love in the class and in school, because they miss it from you. Now, social consciousness, the second principle. From here on in, they're quite simple. I spend a lot of time on the first because it is something that we need to seriously talk about with our students. So, reading, interpreting verbal and nonverbal body language, knowing how people are feeling, right, from one moment to the next. Now, this social consciousness is broken up into three distinct parts. The first is looking at empathy. Social consciousness, those around you, with the first guiding principle of empathy, understanding the emotions, the needs of others based on your experiences, but be very careful, teachers. Do not be overly empathic, because then you become too involved with the others and how they're feeling and their needs, and you lose focus on who you are. Okay. Yes, to identify with them. Not only students, though, not only students, which is the next principle, it is organizational mindfulness. It's using empathy and organizational mindfulness with your supervisors, your principal, your fellow teachers, the parents, the students, all of the school environment. Knowing the politics, the school culture, the mission, the vision, and aligning on a mutual, it's called mutuality, on a mutual understanding of what needs to be done for the needs of our students. And finally, the triangular relationship in education. It's having the students, the teachers, and the parents at the three angles of the triangle, and involving the parents more in this relationship to benefit the students. Now, here's the issue where parents sometimes do not assist in this. So that's why you must be very conscious of your empathy towards parents, what they are going through, etc. Management, yes. Classroom management, school management. I break it down in other forms, other wording, right? Knowledgeable enough in schools, guidelines and policies on child protection and safeguarding. Yes, something that teachers really don't put too much energy into, in which they should, especially now after all of this. That is something, and thank you for that comment, that is something that definitely needs to be looked at again in detail. Here is an activity. I would like you all to, you can screenshot it if you wish. This is something I do very often in workshops. It's like having a journal. I don't know if you can see this. And asking yourselves, in my interactions with others, did I do these three things? Did I listen actively to the person who came to me? Was I too busy? Did I ask questions in the interaction about what, about why, about how she was feeling, what they were saying? When this was happening, did I look at my body language? Remember the first one, self-awareness? This brings that in. My facial expressions, my voice, other elements to meet their needs. Sometimes when you teach, you say, man, I had a bad day. How many of you have had a bad day, teachers? Man, I had a bad day. Woo, it was a horrible day. Well, there's a reason why you had a horrible day. Go home, have your tea, have your coffee, relax, rewind, take out your little journal and ask yourself, a couple of students made me feel this way and they caused my bad day. Did they really cause your bad day? Or were you part of the problem because of your bad day? I don't know. Food for thought. Relationship skills. Relationships. Harnessing effective communication, cooperation with others, forming new friendships and interpersonal conflicts. This is school, right? Every year, this is school. Kids are best friends one week, enemies the next week. They create new friendships the next month, and even teachers too, right? It happens with adults. So some of the guiding principles regarding this particular aspect of social emotional wellness, and this visual prompt says it all. If you look very carefully at the students, how they are labeled. In relationships, communicate clearly what it is you want, what it is you're asking. And remember what we said, emotions play a huge role in communication. Listen well, listen actively, as the two pillars of the English language are speaking and listening, communicative approach. To cooperate with one another, inside and outside of class. To resist inappropriate social pressures. Okay. Somebody writes clear instruction. Yes, interacting well. Negotiating conflicts. Seeking and offering help when needed. So these are some principles that I have reflected on and I'm sharing with you. There are a lot more. I mean, you know, this topic, there is a plethora of information on it. It's finding key principles based on my personal and professional experiences and finding information from research and offering like a framework for these 4 aspects. Now, relationships. This is an activity for your students. Let's do this together. Inside out, okay. Somebody asks if this is true. No significant learning can occur without a significant relationship. It's so funny that you just wrote from a Yale professor. I actually have worked with a couple of professors in leadership management from Yale University. One of them was Victor Vroom. And this was 25 years ago. And we found out that in general, in school, in work, in companies, in life, you learn every day, all day, if you allow it to happen. And in order for that to happen, it's all about interactions. Interactions, relationships, right? So the key to learning is relationships. Yes. So sadness versus joy. We have sadness right over here. We have joy right over here. And we have wonderful bing bong right here. Okay, the elephant. Who do you think, dear teachers, will be more effective because something's going to happen to bing bong right now? Who's going to help him? Joy or sadness? Now, when we ask students this question, because you just did this whole entire webinar. So of course, 99% of you are saying sadness. Students are going to say joy. Joy is going to make Bing Bong happy. Sadness is going to make Bing Bong sad. Let's take a look.
My rocket! Wait, Riley and I were still using that rocket. It still has some song power left. Who's your friend who likes to play? No, you can't take my rocket to the dump. Riley and I are going to the moon. Riley can't be done with me.
Hey, it's gonna be okay. We can fix this. We just need to get back to headquarters. Which way to the train station?
I had a whole trip planned for us.
Hey, who's ticklish, huh? Here comes the tickle monster.
I'm sorry they took your rocket. They took something that you loved. It's gone. Forever.
Sadness. Don't make him feel worse.
Sorry.
It's all I had left of Riley.
I bet you and Riley had great adventures.
Oh, they were wonderful. Once we flew back in time. We had breakfast twice that day.
Sadness.
It sounds amazing. I bet Riley liked it.
Oh, she did. We were best friends.
Yeah, it's sad.
I'm okay now. Come on. The train station is this way.
Love it. Come on, be honest. You can make an entire lesson around this small video clip. Joy was trying to get the answer from the beginning and got nowhere, right? So what do?
My rocket!
We asked,
Wait!
We asked students, how was Bing Bong comforted? Be as specific as possible. Empathy, yes. Empathy, 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 yes. Just when you are really, when you are in other situations, you can make your voice effective. Love it. Okay. The touch, the tone, right? I understand what they were saying, how they were saying it. Then the next question we ask our students, and this is a great one. Have you ever been in the position of Bing Bong, sadness, or joy? Guys, I'm giving you just the idea. You work with it. You create your own authentic lesson out of this. But believe me, magic will be made in the classroom with this particular video regarding social and emotional wellness. Okay. And finally, responsible decision making. Being a good decision maker. Our future global agents of change, they need a little bit of work with this, right? To have a decision-making process requires a student to not be afraid of fear, right? You see how everything connects in a way? So what we have to do is to give some understanding of what responsible decision-making is. The first principle, having a decision-making model. Now, identifying a problem, conflict to be solved. How do we do this? Gather relevant information, brainstorm some solutions, identify the consequences, make a choice. It's a risk, right? Take action. It may not work, but that's okay. Try again. Okay. Excuse me. Avoid babying. Oh my goodness. This is totally Triangular relationship, the parents. Babying, tough love, Rudy, yeah, man, I'm 100% for that. But babying, right, where students are taken by the hand for everything, navigating tricky situations. No, let them do it on their own. Let them make the mistakes. Let them fall on their face. That's what's supposed to be done. You're going to give me a test? What's on the test? Tell me what's on the test. Units 1, 2, and 3. Yes, but that's not enough. Multiple choice, open, close, essays. Yes. What are you going to ask me for the essay? Excuse me? How many multiple choices are there going to be? Is there going to be any grammar? Like, they want to know everything. We can't do this. Ingrid, a little mix, a little recipe of soft and tough love. Yes, that's great. The thing is, take action. Share how you feel, Rudy. So the thing is that we must not take them by the hand through everything. Making a poor decision, getting wrong answers, facing the natural consequence is normal. And then going through a similar situation with new choices, better decisions, lessons learned and gathered from the first unsuccessful experience. This is what we want to do, right? Yes, critical thinking, self-motivation. But the thing is, you know, we can allow them to do it more on their own. Okay. Now, let's avoid this. And of course, the culprit with this is parents, right? Because your student doesn't do well on a test, and then the parent comes to you and says, she studied, it's your fault. And you're like, what? Wait a minute, what are you talking about? And they're like, it's because of you that they didn't do well. No. Really, it's not. So the parent is not allowing critical thinking to mature. Self-motivation doesn't work because the parent is saying, no, 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 you're right, to the student, to the child. The teacher's wrong, right? And then how is that student going to respect you? You see the connections again? Promote mindfulness. Very important in decision making. Never rush a decision. Students taking a test, students answering a question. Teachers, parents, we will not be around for our future global agents of change. They need to learn to slow down, to look at what's in front of them, setting them up for success, to filter out all the hubbub and the noise, and to make that decision. Not to worry about, oh, if I don't do well, my parents are going to kill me. No, just leave them out of this. Leave everybody out of it. Just focus on what is at hand, the challenge that is before you, not the threat. Decision-making, time for fun. As I did another webinar called Jollification, there was a game, Would You Rather? And I use this for decision-making. So a really silly one is, would you rather not have your iPad, your cell phone, or junk food for a month? Teachers, what would you give up for a month? Your iPad, your cell phone, or junk food? Asking students this to make a decision, and then telling them why. Why would you give up junk food? What are the benefits in giving up your cell phone, right? Of course, no one's going to put cell phone. You guys, come on. Everybody's writing junk food. You can't give up your cell phone for a month. I can't either. It's okay. So, decision making. Would you rather explore the ocean or outer space? Why? What would you do to explore it? To raise a monkey or to raise an elephant? Which one would you want as a pet? Why? Could you do it? What would you have to do to raise a monkey? What would you have to do to raise an elephant? These are some questions that you can ask students for them to practice their decision making. Okay. So, my fellow educationalists, dear teachers in Vietnam, we're thinking of our future global agents of change all the time. Their behavior in self-awareness is that iceberg that you see right there. This is what we see every single day. Good kids, bad kids, rambunctious kids, bored kids, lazy kids, excited kids. This is what we see. Right? This is how they're feeling. So, emotions and feelings. It's what's important to find out. Are they loved? Satisfied? Confused? Disconnected? Yes, what we see is just the tip of the iceberg, the behaviors. But after today, we are going to think a little bit deeper into their emotional wellness. Right? And so, isolated. This reminds you of a psychoanalysis class. Well, it's part of, I mean, listen, teaching is so much more than just a book and teaching English. Right? How are they feeling? Sad, connected, angry, joyful, safe, loved. They're asking themselves, nourished. Can I do things for myself? Do I belong? Am I respected? Am I understood? So, remember, an environment where we can foster their social and emotional well-being with self-awareness, social consciousness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. Thank you so very, very much for your time, your dedication, your professionalism in being educators in Vietnam. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so very, very much. If I'm correct, we have questions and answers.
Yeah, we have. I see that there are 2 questions, Gregg, for you in the question box.
In the question box, yes.
We've got the Q&A with 2 questions.
Okay.
Do you see them?
Yes. While I completely support the significance of social emotional learning, how can teachers keep up with their tight syllabus? Yes, especially when students misinterpret a teacher's empathy for delay and hence constantly throwing tantrums or disrupt the class. When you say delay, does it mean that you take the time out of teaching to address an issue and therefore students are upset? Because if a student is throwing a tantrum or disrupting the class, I find that as a wonderful opportunity for a teachable moment. And one of the things I do when this happens, because you say you have this tight syllabus and that you have to finish activities and lessons within a time frame, I always go with the moment. So if you can add a personal story in something that you did as a child and connect with the child or children who are having this tantrum or disrupting the class, reminding them about the pillars of the class. For example, I had 5 in New York, little kids, 3rd graders, 2nd graders. I had trust, honesty, openness, respect, love, and forgiveness. These were my pillars in my classroom that we all followed. If you can set the tone from the beginning, you will have less tantrums and disruptions in class as the year goes. And of course, you can, add or subtract from that throughout the year. If one student keeps saying, I don't know, for most of the tasks you give, even those tasks are not hard, how would you deal with this situation? A student who insists that they don't know is not taking the time to try. They have the I can't syndrome. I can't, because they have never been properly given the positive reinforcement for something that they can do and has done well. So take that child and have a one-on-one interaction with them. And at the next possible moment, when that child does something right or incredible, capitalize on that moment to give them praise and positive reinforcement. Active listening is literally, as opposed to passive. Passive is like a student speaking to you and you go, yes, okay, I understand. Yes, right. It's like what I do with my wife. No, I'm teasing. Active listening is actually having eye contact with the person, finishing listening to what they're saying, repeating some of the things they said, right? So that you can comprehend what they said, and offering or giving an answer back. Now the chat box is going. I'm not on the chat box right now. I'm on the question box. I'm sorry, because there's a lot on the question box. We already sorted out the students by building some. Okay. We already sorted out the students by building some big English centers. Public schools will be another story. Can this theory be applied for both situations? Absolutely. Hands down, absolutely. Public, private, international, local, village, city, town schools, yes. It all starts with us. Okay. Wait a minute. What about students who seem spoiled, who make it nearly impossible to win over to make happy, who don't respect anyone, including their own parents? Ooh, I don't know if that makes sense. It does. I've taught students like that in New York. Extremely rich, spoiled, and unfortunately, this situation plays an what happens here is, because of their how they were raised at home, influences this behavior exponentially. And so it's kind of sensitive here when they're spoiled, because you don't want to go against what how the parents are raising the kids, but this is a great opportunity to have a talk with the parents to work together for the child. I feel that sometimes I'm too sensitive to the point that I would feel disappointed when noticing tiny changes in their attitude towards an activity. And I would try to make some adjustments to light up the atmosphere. After today, I think I might consider it my strength. Yes, I agree. Oh, okay. Are there any effective ways on knowing and controlling students' emotions and feelings in a virtual class? Now, in a virtual class, the difficulty in doing that is times 10. Because you're not in a social environment. This is not a social environment. This is a virtual environment, right? You cannot feel me, the energy. You cannot, I cannot go around you guys in a room and have you interact and to have us exchange and to have a really booming experience as much as opposed to what we're doing here. So to do this, I would say, is don't force students virtually to do something that they don't want to do, because they're already out of their comfort zone. So if you force the situation even more, then you've lost them, 100%. If you have the videos open and you can hear things going on and you can see things going on, yes, have a one-on-one WhatsApp talk with them or have a chat with them online. How?
Correct. I think we have time for one more question, and then.
Sorry. Yes.
Yeah.
I got caught up. Sorry.
One last question.
Yes. Okay. If students don't want to work with the one they like in pairs or groups, some students do the task and some in the group don't. When I asked them, they replied, I don't know. Okay. In one of the slides, I wrote about relationships with kids, and one of the principles was cooperation, collaboration. So here is where we have to explain to students that in life, sometimes we don't choose with whom we work with. In teams, in groups, right? In companies, in a basketball team. Use different examples, soccer, etc. And so we need to find each other's strengths and weaknesses and work with them. Now, if students don't like working with one another, there has to be a reason why. Being a teacher, though, if you know your students well enough and you have written a little profile on each student, you can pair them up and group them up accordingly based on their strengths and weaknesses for the beginning, and then gradually change them, rotate them so they can become more comfortable. And don't forget, if you implement the guiding principles and you talk to them about these things, chances are that they'll be working better and more effectively with one another after you have done everything that we said today. I hope it helped. You guys were awesome. Thank you so very much, teachers. I'll try to get back to the chat because you wrote a lot of things. Before I log out, I'll just peruse the chat. But again, you guys were wonderful. Thank you. VUS, always a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Greg, for your presentation today. I actually learned a lot myself from your presentation. And thank you, everyone, for your wonderful participation in our session today.
VUS, your English, your future.